if you're surrounded by people that are already doing it, you're much more likely to be successful. And so that's one thing I would highly recommend to anybody who's listening, any physicians who are listening, who want to get involved in real estate investing, is to get into the room with other people who are already doing what you want to do. That will get you so much farther.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. As always, it's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe, and thank you for listening to another episode. Today's podcast guest was with my new friend, Dr. Danny Estupinan, and I am so glad to have him on the podcast. He talks about all kinds of incredible things during this podcast episode, and we hit his journey as a child watching his parents as entrepreneurs and talk about what that can look like as you're teaching your kids about entrepreneurship. We talk about real estate investing. We talk about his pivot now towards memory. The biggest risk a physician can take with their investing is not taking any risk at all. And being risk adverse is important in medicine, but sometimes it can impact our willingness to invest. So we talk about how the antidote to burnout is financial freedom. And if you focus on this, you're going to unlock options for you and your life, and you're going to be able to live life and practice medicine on your terms. Dr. Danny is a private practice neurologist, father, husband, and God-fearing friend who is living the dream. He's a physician entrepreneur, investor with a passion for helping fellow physicians become financially free to live life on their own terms by helping them become financially literate and learning to manage investment risk and take leverage bets on hard assets to become financially free. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you learned something from it, go ahead and send it to a physician who can benefit from it. I'm so glad that you're here. How are things going in Tallahassee, Florida?
Fantastic, man. It's living the dream every day, one day at a time.
That's awesome, man. That's what it's all about. So thanks for taking some time during your staycation right now to hop on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I know your time is valuable, and I'm sure this podcast episode is going to be really valuable as well. Before we really get started, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a local board certified neurologist, hospice palliative medicine physician, basically real estate entrepreneur and physician investor. Basically kind of had a journey from being born and raised in Miami, an entrepreneurial family. Mother and father were actually Mario Boatlift survivors. You know, if you've seen the movie Scarface, Mario Boatlift, 1980, Jimmy Carter. They came over, they built their own lamp and manufacturing accessories business from the ground, multi-million-dollar business for about 15 years, went bankrupt. So I saw the ups and the downs within 15-year time span, and I just got the entrepreneurial bug from them. And then basically went off to college, academics, of course, lived my dream as a physician and really serving others, but realized that entrepreneurial bug was always inside. And so I eventually transitioned into private practice, started investing in real estate. I think that the focal point, the zoom in, and we'll kind of deep dive on that, is when the pandemic hit and I realized, wow, I don't have enough horizontal lines of income here. Things shut down. It was a scary time. So that really sparked ignited the fuse that led to where I am today. So I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah, that sounds great, Danny. Well, yeah, one thing I love that you said is horizontal income. For folks that are listening and don't understand that term, as horizontal income and vertical income. Horizontal income is when you're laying down horizontal when you're making money. So that's what this podcast is all about, thinking about how can we increase that horizontal income? How can we have some degree of passive income to help you practice medicine and live life how you want to? And Danny's a great example of that. Danny, you mentioned that your family was really entrepreneurial and they started a lamp business and manufacturing business. What were some things that stick out early on, or some early experiences that you remember that kind of nudged you towards business?
I remember my dad, one thing that really was just beautiful was that, it was way bigger than them. They employed several local immigrants that came over and from different countries and really helped them support families. So it was so much bigger than them. And I just thought that was just such a beautiful thing. And then, dad and mom just kind of really instilled the value of hard work and, drive and to never give up and delayed gratification and just targeting and being goal driven and goal set and never giving up. And, they went from, and the thing that really kind of crystallized in my mind was when I saw my dad, he showed me when I was a kid, this is the first dollar we made, son. and he had it like
That's
on
awesome.
the wall, just plastered there. I was like, that was such a like a wonderful thing. It was like, wow, they really, really value and live the American dream every single day. And so that really just kind of sparked and it ignited that for me. And I realized, gosh, I definitely built for this. So that's kind of when it all started. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, it sounds like some really early exposure early on, and your parents really showed you the value of hard work. Has that changed? We were mentioning how we have little ones. Has that changed how you think your little one in the future about business and entrepreneurship, or is there anything that you
100%.
think about?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, and I'll get to this. So that's a whole inspiration for the book. So I've so many like life-changing moments that have happened for me, over the years. But one of the biggest ones that was earth-shattering was having my daughter, right? So she's almost 18 months now. And it's just incredible how quickly they grow. But that changed my world completely. Like your whole focus in life, your purpose, meaning what really matters, what matters most. Like you just realize, wow, in that moment, everything changes. And your world is turned upside down, and you realize we have to relook at everything. And so for me now, it's all about her, about serving, others, and just making sure that the future is assured for the next generation, and making sure that we are doing everything we can to live up to our potential. And so I feel like just living by example is the biggest thing. Living by example and just showing her what that looks like, and showing her intimately, and giving her sort of the rules of the road and the lessons learned, and hopefully I'm hoping to write a book on that, just for, it's driven, inspired by her, I should say, but hopefully it'll help somebody else out. But I think that's really kind of where it all comes from.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're right in the middle of that right now, teaching Jack, our 4-year-old, about money. And it's been really fun. The other day, he was like, Dad, I want to go do a lemonade stand. So I took him to the store and we bought everything for lemonade. And I told him, hey, you're going to have to pay for these supplies. I'll split them 50-50 with you. And then whatever you make, you get to keep. And it was so cute. We like go up to the cash register and it was like $8 or something. And so he's reaching in and he's like picking up $4 and handing it to the cashier. And it was just really cool. And then we go and he's selling lemonade and it was so funny. He did a great job. But anyone who would come by, he would just yell like, do you like lemonade? And we were at the park and they'd come up. A bunch of folks would be like, oh, we don't have any cash. And then he started saying, it's okay, I take Venmo. And then his business skyrocketed. He made a whole $7, but he was pumped about it. And it was cool to just see him take ownership. And, he was pouring the lemonade in the glasses and scooping the ice and handling the money and putting it in his little bluey piggy bank. And it was a good time. And I say all that to say, man, they watch what we're doing and they learn so much by what we're doing and what we're teaching them. And I think a lot of times parents feel uncomfortable talking about money. And then kids don't really understand like the value of money and that it's a tool, and Jack's really starting to learn that. So it's been really fun. So say all that to say, as you're teaching your daughter about money in the future, please keep me posted on how it goes and some new things that you learn and go from there, because it is such a blessing to be able to do that and teach them. And gosh, having kids is the best.
It is the best job in the world. No question. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a job. That's for sure. Awesome. Well, let's step a little bit further into your journey. So where did you go to medical school? I know you practice neurology and you do a ton of amazing things in hospice and palliative care as well.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, right now I'm primarily focused in basically neurology, neuromuscular medicine, but also fellowship trained in hospice palliative medicine. So basically my journey is, I went to undergrad at Hopkins. That's where I got a neuroscience degree, then medical school residency, University of Florida, then a couple of years at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville for neuromuscular, basically MG fellowship, and hospice palliative medicine fellowship, which is where I got a lot of exposure to assisted living, senior care living. That's some of that inspiration comes from. But basically, the primary focus right now is I'm a private practice neurologist here in Tallahassee, so I actually transitioned from being in academics to private practice. So now I run my own practice. Here's part of a partner, a large group, multi-specialty, and living the dream. And so it's been a great transition. And I'm sort of in the mid-career stage now. So it's exciting to be able to really be in a position to serve others, give back, and really grow for the practice. So.
That's awesome. Congrats on that transition. How did you start getting interested in entrepreneurship and real estate? When did that bug kind of bite you? I know you mentioned the pandemic expedited that, but when did that first get started?
It really first, so my mom's a commercial real estate broker in Miami. So I kind of lived and breathed it. So she went from being business owner to being really in sales and commercial real estate. And so she pretty much talks about it every day. And so I was kind of part of that. from the get-go for the past 20 plus years, hearing about all the wonderful things, the commercial real estate can do for you. And I was just, not ready yet and not in the right position, because it does take a lot of capital to invest in commercial real estate. It's scary. And I think, as docs, we're trained to be very conservative. And that's kind of one of the inspirations for doing this podcast, is really just to show, hey, even if you're very conservative, you're risk averse, we're trained to be sort of perfectionism, do everything perfectly, don't make any mistakes, don't take any risks, and that's not really conducive to growth from a financial standpoint. So like if you just go by that and you just take the sort of passive route, like you're going to find yourself in retirement thinking, oh my God, what happened? I should have taken more risks. So the biggest lesson I think for me has been learning to risk management, being able to take those risks. And so from education standpoint, of course, I spent, literally thousands of hours listening to business books, real estate, taking commercial real estate courses. Being a part of mastermind groups with high performing entrepreneurs, and the real estate investors. So, I kind of paid my dues. I did the sort of due diligence, learned and get educated. So first, of course, I'm not saying don't get educated, but once you do get educated and you feel comfortable, it's important to take those chances, take those risks. So, for sure, that's one thing that I would say is just, don't be afraid to take chances.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great point. And that comes up all the time, because you're exactly right. Like if we make mistakes in practicing medicine, death could be a consequence, right? Like the risks are so high. And so it's really hard to translate that into investing, and could be difficult for physicians to think through. Tony Robbins, I believe it's Tony Robbins, has a great quote that's like, you're only going to grow as much as you are willing to be uncomfortable. So you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And the same thing applies to real estate, right? Like we're not saying go spend every last dollar you have investing in some, idea, get rich quick scheme. We're saying take the time, take some capital, take some money, get educated, figure out what you like, what you're interested in, and then be willing to take some understandable risk or some mitigated risk along with potentially partners or folks that you learn about. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but you just have to get started. And it's really important to have that, and practice that risk muscle, if you will.
That's right. And you sort of learn where on the profile, and if you take some of these profiles, where on the profile you are in terms of your risk. Like I'm more in the aggressive category in terms of risk management. I'm willing to take more chances, but some people are more conservative, and that's okay. There's room for everybody. And I think the beautiful thing about real estate is there's room for everybody. There's always an asset class that makes sense for you, that is more time intensive, less time intensive, more management intensive, less management intensive, or, and that's kind of what kind of drove me initially into investing in industrial real estate. So that's
awesome.
Yeah. So we can talk more about that.
Let's talk about that'd be great. Let's talk more about industrial real estate and kind of the drivers there.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the pandemic hit, kind of zooming in, basically everything shut down. The world was ending. And what happened, we're essential workers, but guess what? When you own your own practice, you have to make payroll, do all the things, and not enough money's come in, so you go several months without a paycheck, and that's a big, so that's a big shock to you. It's like, wow, you can't. The safe place is no longer safe, right? So it's no longer safe to just have your standard work environment and your 9 to 5, and think that that's gonna cover you when everything. The world is in chaos, right? And so that's what really inspired me. And I said, I have to do something differently. And so I basically found a team of experts, right? So made friends with important, accountants, lawyers, built those relationships with a commercial broker locally, and became good friends with him. And basically he brought me all the deals that brought the portfolio together. It turns out, there was a big run up in equity with real estate. So sold off, the primary home and said, we're putting this into. I talked to my wife and we discussed, and we're like, I'm going to take that equity, let's invest it, and let's grow a portfolio. So we ended up investing initially in a warehouse, 8,000 square foot warehouse, and buddies, like within 12 months of operating that, we were positive in cash flow. I was so excited because it was like 2 units. It was like, wow, this real estate thing is really making sense. I'm cash flowing positively. It's growing low management intensity. You really don't have to spend so much time with operations, a handful of calls a year. It was the perfect setup to get started. And the demand was there, e-commerce, things were growing. It was a great time to get into it. And this was December of 21 when we just jumped headfirst. And basically from there, buddy's like, within 12 months, he's like, hey, there's a 16-unit commercial, 5-bay warehouse next door. You want to buy it? It's like, oh, it's $2.4 million. Like, what? Where are we going to get that money, right? So that's another thing. It's like another limited, right? So all these sort of limited beliefs. Where am I going to get the money? I don't know, imposter syndrome, all these things, right? That run through your head. You're like, how am I going to do this, right? Of course, I talked to friends and family. I talked about the vision. I said, hey, this is what this is about. This is what we want to accomplish. You want to jump on board? You want to support me through this? I guarantee you your money. I can't guarantee anything, but don't put any money that you're gonna, that you're not willing to lose, of course. But if you feel comfortable with this, let's move forward. And was able to raise enough capital with OPM and other people's money to make it happen. And of course, I co-invested as well, had some skin in the game, but the vast majority came from OPM, and we were able to buy the property. Within a few short months, I went from not knowing what I was going to do to buying it. We actually made the offer, and there were 4 offers that came in like same day, and we got it right before they did, including some really strong offers. So we got very lucky. We got it early at $55 a square foot. It was 30% vacant. So the pandemic had hit basically everything, all the major asset classes hard, but the industrial real estate there were a lot of businesses that weren't operating well, and some were going out of business. So there was a vacancy. It was a risk, like anything, but we felt pretty confident we could fill that vacancy. Within 6 months, we filled it. We doubled NOI, and we exited within 3 years. And so, it was really incredible just to see the progression and just how quickly things can change in the snap of a hat, just by changing your mindset. I mean, if you change your mindset from a scarcity mindset to a growth mindset, anything is possible. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So that was really exciting, and that's how it all came together.
That's cool, Danny. Well, I want to hit a couple things that you mentioned. First, what, if you don't mind sharing, what was the purchase price of that first property that you bought?
Sure. So the first was, we bought it for, I think it was like $750. $750. Okay. Yeah. And
then the second one was 2.8?
2.35.
2.35. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so a huge jump there. And I think it's important to mention, like, when you look at these numbers, right, that was an enormous jump going from $750K to $2.35 million, because this is that your mindset, your thought initially is the same thought that everyone has at some point in the real estate investing journey of, this property is way too expensive. How in the world am I going to come up with this money? And then that imposter syndrome sneaks in, exactly like you mentioned. But I think the encouraging thing for folks is to see that as long as you have that abundance mindset and you realize, hey, I'm offering this opportunity to a potential investor that they otherwise wouldn't have, 80% of the deal is the trust that they have in you, right? And so they're willing to invest in you because they trust Danny, they trust the journey, they trust he's going to be a good steward of their money. And then the other 20% is what the deal actually looks like. And you purchased that deal at $55 a square foot. What did you sell it at, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, at $83 a square foot. So I mean, basically,
83.
Yeah. So I mean, we made a pretty good. I would say that the second investment really kind of made up for any mitigation. With, I probably overpaid a little bit on the first one, not knowing that I was overpaying. I kind of just went for it. But then the second one, we got really, really great deal. So I think it really evened out pretty well, and we really, I think, maximized the revenue.
That's awesome. What, $83 a square foot? What did you end up selling that for?
So 3.95.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was because it was right next door. We sold it as one industrial park essentially. And really just getting the chops of operating and getting all the tax benefits from operating real estate. I had, my wife was rep status at the time. So we, between the two of us, we and my buddy was helped out, really, broker buddy, really, we were able to manage it well and operate it well and really provide a great value and service to the community. And it's really neat because most of them were really important businesses locally that kind of really supported the community. So it was nice that way too, because you get to help local businesses be prosperous. So it's really just a beautiful thing.
That is awesome. Yeah. Well, what a cool deal. And thanks for sharing that. I think it's fun to do kind of some closer deal deep dives with folks, and I really appreciate it. So going forward, are you still investing in the industrial space? I know we obviously are going to talk about assisted living, but are you still investing in industrial space?
So I have another investment it's in truck parking that I'm actually exiting. I have a partnership there. And so I'm actually going to take that capital and put it into residential assisted living. So the hope is to transition fully into residential assisted living. That's kind of that's the future vision. And I think what it has to do, and I think the biggest lesson here is with assets and FOMO and all of that is like sometimes it's the asset that comes to you that you have in front of you that might be a good deal, but is it on a long-term basis? Does it light your fire? Does it align with your vision and values? And I don't think that was that asset class, which for me it's a great asset class. I mean, industrial is one of the hottest asset classes. It does very well in recession times. I mean, it's a stable, low time management intensive asset class. It doesn't really completely align with what I'm looking for, which is to really provide a greater service to the community. And for me, residential assisted living really fits all of that. And most importantly, it's aligned with what my sort of knowledge and competence is in. And that's really, I think, where the big value comes in is I don't feel like I'm the best industrial operator out there. I know I can be the best residential assisted living operator because of my background.
Yeah.
And I think that's so you have to really, as they say you have to go an inch wide but and a mile deep. And I think concentrating your efforts on what you do best, that's how you get to the next level. And so that's what I'm hoping to do.
Awesome. Yeah, that is really, really great advice. What else do you like about assisted living, or what else kind of drew you to the assisted living space? Of course, you're going to be amazing at it with your background, but are there any other things that you're like, hey, this just makes a lot of sense?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you realize that when it comes to memory care, assisted living, nursing, I mean, as a physician, and you understand this well, you hear over and over again horror stories from families. Like, I had to put my family member in this facility, this happened. I mean, just the care, the quality of care, the caregiver support, they're overwhelmed, they're understaffed. I mean, they get sick, they have a very poor outcomes, they have poor quality of life. It's really not like people deserve better. Our families deserve better. Our patients deserve better. So really the biggest motivator is we want to enhance and improve the quality of care for the local community. And I think that's where the drive comes from. And I think that's a higher purpose mission. And that's what drove me to medicine in the first place. I'm aligning that with what brought me to medicine. And so that I think is going to be a beautiful thing because it's going to align, all of the things that really drew me to his career in the first place. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think physicians can really relate to that and really relate to the fact that there's just got to be a different way of providing care to seniors than what exists for the majority of folks. And I really do truly believe that residential assisted living, memory care, in more of a residential setting is absolutely the way to do it. And we didn't even hit on the demographics, of course, that folks are likely tracking that silver tsunami as more and more of these baby boomers are aging. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's 77 million baby boomers. 7 out of 10 of them are going to require long-term care. It's 59 million boomers. And we already have about a 600,000 to 1 million bed shortage. So it's just crazy. It's like Wayne Gretzky used to say that he skates to where the puck's going to be. And that's exactly what assisted living and memory care is. And physicians have so much knowledge and key insights on how to do that really well that I think it's a fantastic asset class to consider if you're thinking about investing or if you're thinking about starting your own.
Absolutely. The other thing I'll add is just, being a hospice palliative medicine physician, working in different settings. So I've seen skilled nursing facilities up close and personal, assisted living and memory care. And I've seen the different levels of care and it's the small mom and pops that always do the best. They always do the best for their folks. So I feel like that's where the magic happens. So I absolutely, totally align with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Danny, in your neuro practice, I'm sure you see the day-to-day realities of dementia. As you think about your memory care homes that you're going to develop, what are some things that you think about is going to lead to great clinical care? What are some things that you're looking forward to doing inside the memory care mansions?
Great question. I mean, so the memory, memory care, dementia, it's a tsunami. Talk about the silver tsunami, but there's definitely a tsunami happening in dementia and Alzheimer's. I mean, seeing it every single day. It's incredible just how many people we're seeing every day. I mean, this demographic shift, over 100 million baby boomers retiring. I mean, it's really, I don't think people understand just how large of a problem this is. And how many people are being affected. If you have a family member, somebody that's been through dementia, like in my case, my grandfather just passed away. He had advanced Parkinson's disease, Parkinson's dementia, vascular dementia, and my grandmother-in-law who just passed away, who lived in my house. So we've done the caregiving all the way to the end of life with our close loved ones. Grew up with both my grandmas, some old soul at heart. So I've seen sort of up close and personal, what good care looks like and how much more quality of life you get when you have tender, loving caregivers that are there for you 24/7. It adds years to your life and life to your years, and it's incredible how much of a difference that makes. But as far as the dementia and what we're seeing locally in clinics, I mean, it's really, the diagnosis, I'm seeing a lot more. The good news is people are coming to me earlier. I mean, that's the one thing that I think traditionally has been an issue, but I think there's more awareness in the community now that, hey, I should get checked out. I'm having some memory issues. So we're catching a lot more people in the MCI, mild dementia stages where we could do something about it. I think traditionally we've had issues with getting, PCPs to refer in early enough. It's like years later, I'm like, how did you get here this late? I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. So the biggest message is get people diagnosed early, get them in treatment early. Ultimately, if you have a family history of dementia, get your lifestyle dialed in, behavior modification, all the things to clean living, to take good care of your brain and body, because that is by far the biggest thing you can do to really curb this disease. But for all that already are kind of in that boat, I mean, it takes a village to take care of them. And that's why I think it really matters that your heart is in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And sorry to hear about things that you went through with your family, but I'm glad that they did receive great care, with you. And thanks for doing that. Being a caregiver is really hard work. Dady, what are the goals for Florida for memory care for you? What are you hoping to develop, and what's the timeline?
Great. And so, the vision is really, I really like the memory. I just caught my eye that this whole memory care mansion, quote unquote, memory care mansion model, the 16-bed, 16-bath unit, that are kind of concierge level care to really provide that best level, top level care that patients and families deserve. And really just starting there with great quality and providing that to folks in a very kind of streamlined package. And, Brett, I think it's Brett. I don't want to butcher the last name, but basically has kind of developed this. And it seems like a great model that could be sort of plug and play and sort of create a community of little, basically small residential living units within one area. I feel like starting with one and then kind of plugging and playing and doing it again repetitively to meet the demand and the need. I feel like that is a great way to get started. And I like the idea of a ground up development because you can sort of customize it and tailor it to what the community need is and what's needed out there. So versus trying to make something fit with something that's already there that may not be the best model for what the community needs.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be so cool for you to come in with all the knowledge you have, all the insights that you have, and build that purpose-driven memory care home. It's going to be so cool to see. We're doing the same exact thing. We just got under contract on 10 acres of land in Winchester, Virginia a couple weeks ago, and we are hoping to build at least 4. It'll be probably a mix of assisted living and memory care, but really purpose-built 16 to 18 bed new development, and it's going to be built with a ton of intention so that we can provide the best care possible. And we're really, really excited about that. It's been so cool to see, folks in the Rowram Assisted Living Mastermind, which you recently joined. It's been so cool to see folks do that. And we were talking earlier about our friend Aaron Amin, who's doing that same thing in Texas. And so it's just really cool to see more and more of these homes being built and developed, because that just means more and more seniors are going to get high quality care. And there's so many that need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're excited for you to get started in the process. What are some things that maybe you have some fears about or hesitations about as you get started in the process of new development in Florida?
I think that the single biggest concern I have is just it's a highly regulated industry, and I've been through this. I'm doing a small ADU and just kind of going through the motions with the county and the permitting process for doing anything. It takes so much time. There's delay upon delay to make it all happen. And so knowing sort of a streamlined process, getting all the stakeholders and have everybody be a partner and a teammate in making sure that it all runs as smoothly as possible. And I think just bringing your vision out there, because if people know what you're trying to do, they might be more inclined to want to help you and maybe get you through that permitting process, get you through those hurdles and through the zoning meetings to kind of really make sure that you are able to really successfully do what it is you intend to do without any major barriers. But I think by far that's the biggest hurdle is going to be going through that process in development and in-ground development in particular. It is time consuming, costly, and takes more risky in a sense, but the end point of all that, I think is going to be so rewarding. So I feel like it's going to be worth the struggle and the hassle to get there. And just really trying to have a team of people, support system like the Raw Room, to really, and accountability to really get you there and have the expertise. Because if you're surrounded by people that are already doing it, you're much more likely to be successful. And so that's one thing I would highly recommend to anybody who's listening, any physicians who are listening, who want to get involved in real estate investing, is to get into the room with other people who are already doing what you want to do. That will get you so much farther than just listening to books and podcasts, which is great. It's wonderful, but it's not going to get you there. Taking action is really the most important thing to get you to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can mitigate the risk of that action by being in the rooms with the right people, and you also speed it up so much faster. And so it's just a great way to do it. A lot of times folks are hesitant. They're like, I don't really want to spend like the money to join a mastermind. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to get that back 10, 20, 50, 100x down the road by different partnerships and getting started sooner and all those sorts of things, and just avoiding mistakes that people have already made that you wouldn't otherwise know. So I completely agree, Danny. Thanks for sharing that. Let's kind of head towards wrapping things up here. Your aim is to transform memory care in Tallahassee, leave a generational legacy. How will you know you've succeeded? Have you thought about what that road looks like, maybe clinically, financially, spiritually? What will that look like for you in terms of, hey, maybe the next 5 years, 10 years, what do those goals look like?
Well, I just did my vivid vision exercise. So, we went through that process, which I highly recommend to anybody who's listening. If you haven't read the book Vivid Vision and done a vivid vision for yourself, I think that it's a very valuable tool to help you visualize what that looks like. For me, it's really just being able to be purpose-driven and fulfilled and see that our grandmothers and grandfathers and the pillars of the community are respectfully being treated, taken care of, served in a loving and respectful manner, and with dignity, most importantly, with dignity. Because I think as we get older, old generations, older populations, they begin to lose their dignity and respect. And I think we need to restore that. And I think that my vision for this memory care is really to show that, hey, it doesn't matter what level of disease process you have, that you should always make sure that your loved ones are provided that level of care. To feel like, gosh, I've done, my father's mother has done so much for me. I want to make sure that they're taken care of, and I can feel at peace that I've done everything for them. And I think that's one of the biggest things that patients and family and caregivers struggle with, is feeling that they haven't done enough, that they are not really getting the care that they need. And I think having that and feeling that and coming out of there saying, wow, I'm really doing good for my family. And I think I hope that's the vision, is to make sure that they really get what they deserve.
That's beautiful and really well said. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot too as we're working on these developments, kind of like a summary or maybe like one sentence that really justifies what we're doing or even kind of says what we're doing in the space. And I just keep coming back to like, we love your grandma just as much, or we love your grandpa just as much. And like that is the feeling that I hope that as these homes get developed, that the family members will have, that like, hey, here at Everwood Reserve, for example, in Texas, like they love my grandma or my grandpa just as much as I do, and they care about them just as much. And so I think that's the vision going forward, and I'm really excited to see that play out.
Yes, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know, Danny, we had talked about a little bit that you're hoping to write a book at some point in the future. What's the vision behind that for your forthcoming book? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, so it's kind of inspired by my daughter, really just, one thing, the world's changing so quickly. There's so much that's happening, but, the lessons learned, the principles that have really guided my life, that have helped me, navigate all the downturns and all the different, chaotic moments in life. Like how can I help her? Maybe somebody else can be benefited from this, to really, provide my 2 cents on all the things that are important to really develop yourself, to always be learning and always be growing, and have that abundance mindset from the beginning to really evolve over time and just basically become the best version of the self that you want to be to get to the next stage in life that you want to get to. And really learning how to go through that process and that self-development process to get there, and sort of a roadmap. And that's kind of the inspiration. So we'll see where it takes me, but that's kind of where my mind is right now.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you are definitely motivated to help the youngest generation, help the greatest generation, and everyone in between. So really excited to follow along in your journey. If folks want to reach out to you, Danny, they want to learn more about what you're doing, they want to potentially invest with you in the future, how can they do that?
LinkedIn is kind of a nice place to kind of just connect. So yeah, my LinkedIn profile, you can put it in the show notes and that will be there. I would say that's the quickest way to get in touch with me and we can connect.
Awesome. We'll be sure to include your LinkedIn link in the show notes. Say that 5 times fast. But looking forward to folks getting to connect with you, Danny. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the Physicians and Properties podcast.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, with that, it's been Dr. Danny Estupinan and Dr. Alex Schloe with another episode of the Physicians and Properties podcast. Signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.